Hi, hello, and welcome to the channel. I'm Lady Celine, and today we are getting into Chapter 2 of Chaos Head Noah. It's been a minute since I played the first chapter, but I remember us being off to a strong start with, witnessing a murder, being introduced to several girls, but not allowed to date any of them yet. And a lot of weird things with delusions, but we're getting a better sense of who Takumi is. I'd just say I'm excited for his character arc. Let's see where he goes with this. Beep beep. Anybody going on the field trip, get on. Takumi Nishijo lay on the tatami mat, a colored pencil in his hand. This time it was yellow. Just a few minutes ago it had been red. He was happily scribbling with his pencil across the whole of his open sketchbook. Takumi liked to draw. Even during class, he was always scribbling something in the corner of his notebook. The TV was turned on, showing the morning news. For a fourth grader like him, though, the news was boring. He didn't look at it at all. Beep beep, you can't bring more than 300 yen for snacks. He was drawing a yellow bus and pretending he was the bus driver. The bus is full, so off we go. Whoosh! He envisioned the scene in his head as he put it onto the page. It wasn't uncommon for him to get too excited and let his pencil go off the sketchbook and onto the tatami mat. Whenever that happened, his little sister Nanami would yell, "Hey, don't mess up the mat!" She was a little brat, and he didn't care. He kept drawing anyway. When it came time to draw the passengers on the bus, he suddenly stopped. Oh? And then he ripped the sketchbook up. Yesterday, the day before he was supposed to go on the class's fall field trip, he'd suddenly been told by his parents that he couldn't go. He'd been looking forward to it for a long time. He'd been excited the whole day. So when his parents told him, he refused to accept it. He cried and said he was going to go no matter what, but it didn't matter. No matter what he said, his parents wouldn't listen. "We're saying this for your sake. It's impossible for you." That's all they would say. So he hid under his covers and got mad. So mad he thought he might tear his blanket apart. He hated his parents from the bottom of his heart. That's how important, how critical the field trip was to little fourth grade Takumi. Everybody else got to go, and he didn't. From his perspective, it was totally unfair. In his mind, there were two worlds. A lonely world where he was the only resident, and a fun world where everyone else got to be. He hated his teacher and his classmates for going without him. And he hated his parents for telling him he couldn't go. It wasn't long before that hatred boiled over. He bit his lips so hard it drew blood and began to mutter a curse over and over. I wish nobody gets to go. Okay, that makes sense why he tore up the notebook. He's wishing he was on the bus with his friends, peers. The next morning, the phone started ringing really early. His mom would pick it up and answer it, seemingly shaken by something. She'd set it down, and a little later it would ring again. Takumi couldn't sleep at all. It was past 9 a.m. You shouldn't be sleeping past 9 a.m. for a child. Nanami was sitting on a cushion reading manga. She'd said, "I'll stay home from school with you," the day before, and so there she was. His dad had gone into work and was nowhere to be seen. His mom was so busy answering the phone that she hadn't made breakfast yet. Today, he didn't need to go to school. Glumly, he began to draw in his sketchbook. But it did nothing to help assuage his anger, and just when he'd ripped it up in frustration... Huh? That bus? There was a note of worry in Nanami's voice. He thought she was talking about his picture, but her eyes were glued to the TV set. Mommy! Suddenly, she called out for their mom, who was still talking on the phone. Takumi looked disinterestedly over at the TV. It was showing a collapsed bridge on the highway. Only a small 50-meter section of the bridge had collapsed. A bus had been traveling right over the bridge at that time and had fallen through the hole. Wow. So not even the whole bridge fell apart. It was just a small section. That is ridiculously serendipitous. It was the bus Takumi was supposed to have been on. It was the one his classmates were all on. Oh my god. Did his classmates all fucking die? In a single instant, Takumi was able to envision almost everything that had happened. His classmates were all there. Some were crying, some had faces covered in blood, one was being carried off in a stretcher. A reporter was explaining the accident with a stern expression on his face, but Takumi couldn't understand what he was talking about. Taku, listen to me. His mom was standing in the room's doorway, holding the phone in her hand and looking deathly pale. The field trip's bus got into an accident on the highway. Oh, it's on the TV too. And Mr. Saito is dead. For some reason, Takumi was sure of it. Because everything he was seeing on the TV was just like the scene he'd envisioned last night in his frustration and anger. Oh? Did he predict or cosmically cause this? In his mind, there was only a single thought, a strange certainty that he had the ability to see the future. So, this is something he's been experiencing since childhood. He remembered a TV program he'd seen years ago about whether psychic powers were real or not. There was a psychic on the show who could see the future and put their powers to incredible use during the tests the show had given. At the time, it was a huge deal. In the tests, 12 items were put into 12 boxes numbered 1 through 12, and they had to guess which one would be put in which. The psychic would be in another room before anything happened and make their guesses there. Afterwards, the show's staff would put the items into the boxes, and the results would be checked. Astonishingly, the psychic was 90% accurate, amazing the rest of the cast. Takumi had been watching the show, and he'd made his own prediction as well. Every single one was right. Of course, he'd never told anybody about this. But that's why now he thought that he'd foretold the crash unfolding on the screen. They said over half your class was injured. Oh, how awful. His mother tried to reach down and pick him up, but he slid past her and crawled to the corner of the room. Boy just wants to keep drawing. He's unbothered. I'm so glad, though. She whispered in a hollow voice, her gaze wandering around the room. Oh, did the parents maybe like get a little intuition? I'm so glad I kept you home today. Yeah. Oh, damn. they didn't really give him a reason, so maybe they also experience, like, this really strong predictive intuition. Takumi felt like he was about to throw up. It was all rotten, he thought. What good was seeing the future? In that moment, he felt his heart turn cold. For a while, he didn't talk to anyone. He became completely silent. He didn't say a single word to a single person. Damn, for how long? His parents were already overprotective, but this only made it worse. He gradually started to find them ridiculous and began to keep up his silent act deliberately. That was his way of getting back at his parents, he thought. Wait, does he still wish he had gone on the trip? He was so quiet that they took him to a psychiatrist at a general hospital. He was diagnosed with PTSD. Of course, he didn't have PTSD, so he never took the medicine they gave him. He just pretended to take it. His parents never picked up on the act, and even when he saw how worried and miserable they looked, he didn't feel the slightest bit guilty. Even if he's doing it on purpose, you should be taking a child to a psychiatrist for that, because they can work through the reason, like, why they're pretending to be silent and act up. I don't know, he must be really good at, like, acting in front of the psychiatrists and stuff too. And we're back in the present day. It all felt like a lie. Okay, I remember Yua confronted us about our identity, that we might be Shogun. The whole world was filled with fiction. It was filled with evil that was out to get me. Log into the chat room you always use and see for yourself. You'll see I'm telling the truth. And everything I said, I meant. If nothing else, I want you to believe that. After her bizarre speech, she added that last sentence and then left. Of course, I couldn't believe her. How could I believe her when she'd lied to me? The everything I was that she'd shown me was something I refused to accept no matter what. I wanted to believe that there was no way I could be Shogun. But from the timestamps on the chat log, it was clear that the conversation didn't make sense. Was I sleepwalking? At the time that Shogun had sent these messages, I hadn't been asleep. I'd been at Cafe, sure, but I hadn't been asleep. I couldn't have been sleepwalking. Then why didn't I have any memories at all of writing these comments as Shogun? Was my body under someone else's control? Maybe we're looking at a case of DID, a dissociated identity. Something that, or one that he's not exactly aware of. The very idea was ridiculous. I decided what I needed to escape from all the lies was some good old ESO, my other fictional world. In ESO, everything was a lie. It was just a game after all. But in Baselard, I could be Nightheart, a godlike being. If only the lies and fictions could be like this. I could accept that reality. I wanted to be here forever. What's wrong with that? Or maybe ESO's world was the real one, and this was the fake one. Takumi Nishijo was just a fictional character, and my true identity was Nightheart. Hey, Nightheart. I called out to the paladin on the screen. Am I controlling you, or are you controlling me? Are you the real person? And I'm the Avatar? The last airbender? What if the world I'm in is a game? If that was the case, it would explain everything. If somebody was staring at me right now, just like how I was staring at Nightheart. Oh, I was gonna say, like, little does he know, but no, like, he knows. That's right there, the fourth wall break. Whose eyes are those? The answer to that question would be the player controlling me. Yeah, this is. If that was the case, then I wish they'd stop sucking at the game so much, but an avatar doesn't get to complain. It would explain how Shogun and I could be the same person. It was like with Lieselot. Lieselot and Nightheart couldn't exist in Baselard at the same time. They both had the same player, me. Maybe in the same way, Takumi, Nishijo, and Shogun couldn't both exist in this world at the same time. Or maybe it was like a bug. Speaking of bugs, maybe these strange women appearing and the murder cases were all just bugs too. That's a thought. Okay? The images Shogun sent me flashed through my mind, and I winced. I shook my head desperately. I wanted to run away from everything. If there is a player controlling me, then please reset the game. Oh, I don't think I can do that, buddy. We're just gonna end up right back here. Just start over from character creation. Dude, if I could change your stats, you know I would. Back to the psychosp. The waiting room at the university hospital was filled to overflowing with old people waiting for their exams. Nothing had changed since I'd first come here several years ago. It was as if time itself had stopped. Oh, maybe he's coming back to see the psychiatrist? Everyone wore a gloomy expression. Between that and the stench of disinfectant, the air was heavy and stale. 5 minutes in this room was enough to make you want to kill yourself. I didn't like hospitals. The lobbies were filled with people, but once you went down a hallway, it felt like you were completely alone. They'd always really scared me. It felt like the hallways were full of the stench of death. It always seemed to me that death was the true face of a hospital, and if you went further down the hallways, you'd find even more terrifying, awful secrets. So, to tell the truth, I didn't want to come. But there was something I had to know, and so I had no choice but to sit here, waiting for my exam. Do I have PTSD, or am I in a video game? I don't know if a psychiatrist can answer the second one. Even while I was playing ESO, the words Yua had said kept spinning through my mind, and I couldn't concentrate at all. I ended up staying awake all night, imagining all kinds of terrible things, and started to get really scared of there being something wrong with me. At last, I decided to go to a hospital so I could get a doctor to tell me that I was completely normal. I wanted to prove that Yua was the crazy one, not me. I was used to coming to the psych ward of this hospital. When the lady at the front desk had asked if it was my first time here, I nodded without really thinking about it. But it wasn't my first time at all. Ever since the bus accident, my parents had taken me here on a regular basis. When I got to middle school, my doctor told me I was completely cured and I'd stop going. It had been about 4.5 years since I'd last come here. So wait, 4th grade, so he probably would have been, like about 9 or 10. And I think he's currently 17, so about 7 years ago, 4.5. Yeah, that sounds about right. But interesting. What did completely cured look like? Did he just start talking again? Ooh, delusion. So I could go with no delusion, but I'm actually a bit more curious about the bad one here. The first doctor to look at me was an old man who was supposedly an authority in his field, but he'd only talk to me the first few times before handing me off to one of his students. Of course, his student wasn't that much younger either. If anything, he looked older than the first one. That doctor, Dr. Takashina, had said something to me that I'd remembered last night. This hospital doesn't treat just illnesses or injuries. It treats the heart. I didn't like the hospital, but he was really nice, and he seemed like a really good guy. Not that this had stopped me. I'd kept up my act of deceiving the adults. It was Dr. Takashina who had seen through my deception, though, and had given me an official diagnosis of completely cured. Okay, so he just realized, the doctor realized that he was faking it and sent him off. If I could get him to take a good look at me. Damn it, now I kind of want to switch to a good delusion so that he has, like, a positive experience in the psych ward. We might get a little goony, but at least it won't be pedo. If I could get him to take a look at me. What would he say if he knew I'd grown up to be a creepy otaku? No, he probably didn't even remember me. Maybe? I don't know. I just want him to have a good experience. It wasn't long at all before I was called into the exam room. I thought I'd be asked to wait longer, but that wasn't the case at all. What about all those people in the lobby? Maybe they were all fakes, put there by the hospital to make it look busy. Highly unlikely. It was a different exam room than the one I'd been seen in 4 years ago, but I recognized how he welcomed me when I came in. Hello, Nichijo. He stood up with a friendly smile and offered me a hand. I realized he'd wanted a handshake and hurriedly shook it back. I'm happy to see you again. No, maybe happy isn't the right word. From your perspective, I'm sure it was hard to come back. It had been 4 years, but the doctor was still really friendly. I'd been feeling a little nervous, but I quickly calmed down. So, what brings you here today? Also, it's interesting, I clicked on the good one, or the good delusion, and the music is so creepy, and it's making his, like, supposedly friendly banter, like, I don't know, I don't like it. He's scaring me. He motioned for me to sit down, and I did. Maybe I felt a little too at ease, because I told him everything that had happened, and everything that might have happened. I wasn't used to talking to people, so I kept tripping over my own words, but he never pushed me. He just nodded and listened. Of course, I told him about Yua and the demon girl. Everything. It occurred to me that might be dangerous, but he was the only one I could rely on right now. Let me start by giving you my diagnosis. After I finished, he thought for a while before opening his mouth. You're completely normal. There's nothing wrong with you. Really? Of course. Those were the words I wanted to hear more than anything. I'd come all the way to this hospital just to hear them. I'd been terrified he was going to say there was something wrong with me, but now I was glad I'd come. If anything, this young Kusunoki lady is the one who has something wrong with her. It's difficult to make a diagnosis just from what you've told me, but she's likely suffering from some kind of mental disorder. But he just diagnosed Taku? But then this lady, there's a chance she may try to harm you at some point in the future. Might be talking about Yua or the demon girl. We should call the police immediately. Huh? The police. Yeah, that might be the safest option. There was something wrong with Yua. She was crazy. Just the thought of her coming after me again was enough to make me shiver. Of course, you can count on me to keep you safe. He gazed firmly at me, gave me a friendly pat on the shoulder, and then he even gave me his business card. It had his cell phone number on it. If something happens, just call me, no matter what the time. I'll be there for you 24 hours a day. Wow, you must not have a lot of patience. Really? Of course. I'm your primary care physician. I was almost ready to cry. I was so happy he was my doctor. There weren't many like him these days. We should probably call them about that demon girl, too. The woman you saw was clearly the new gen killer. Your testimony will be incredibly valuable. He was getting a little excited, but he wasn't letting it show in his voice. His tone was as calm as ever. Thanks to you, the case is solved. You're the hero of Shibuya. I'm truly honored to have been here for this moment. I was a hero? This wasn't ESO. A person like me couldn't be a hero. But the championship music is playing, so obviously that means it's true. But just imagining it made me grin. All the middle school girls and high school girls and college girls and office ladies in Shibuya all screaming my name. I would be a celebrity. I could be on TV, but I didn't really like being in front of people, so I would start a venture company instead. Then I'd make a ton of money as a famous CEO. I'd have a bunch of pretty girls as secretaries and my own personal harem. Of course, they'd all be totally in love with me. Because you can just pay girls to be in love with you. I'd have a high-rise condo in Roppongi and lots of cute maids at my service. Like my own personal maid cafe. And of course, they'd be willing to serve me at night too. Just kidding, just kidding. Oh, I'm on top of the world. I bet, buddy. Oh, I bet. And we're back to the waiting room. Suddenly, I realized I was still sitting on the sofa in the lobby. I started looking around the room, unsure of what had just happened. There was an old, hunched-up woman sitting next to me. Her eyes were buried so deep in her wrinkles that I couldn't tell if she was awake. I looked up at the clock above the reception counter and saw that I'd been here in the lobby for over an hour. No, see, that makes a lot more sense with how many people were here. Was that just a dream? Had I fallen asleep while I was waiting since I hadn't slept at all last night? Bro, probably. If only it had been real. I felt so disappointed. In the end, I waited another 2 hours before they finally called my name. 3 hours in the ER? Yeah, that sounds pretty normal. When I went into the exam room, it was the same as I'd seen in my dream. I thought for a minute I was back in the dream again. Dr. Takashina looked just like he had in my dream, too. Maybe he just hadn't changed much over the past 4 years. I mean, no, if he's like a full-grown adult with gray hair, he's not going to look that much different in 4 years. Especially to a child. But he didn't stand up and didn't ask to shake my hand. What brings you here today? He didn't seem happy to see me again, like he was in my dream. I'm, Nishijo?
んああ、これはご丁寧に。
Ah, nice to meet you.
高階です。
My name is Dr. Takashina. Let's get started. He bowed to me. I couldn't say anything. Nice to meet you. That's what he had just said. He'd forgotten me. It made sense. It had been 4 years after all. But I thought that he of all people would remember me. Maybe he does. You're also kind of you are somewhat of a different person than the last time that you were in his office. Like, I could see from his point of view being like, okay, this is a new meeting. What are you here for? I'd kind of had that hope, whether it was fair or not. When that hope was shattered, it just made me sadder. I felt like I didn't matter. He looked at my eye as he spoke, but I looked away.
無遊病かどうか調べてほしいと書いてあるが、
You said you want to find out if you were sleepwalking.
何かあったのかな?
Did something happen? That's right. That's what I'd said on the form, but it didn't matter now. Even if he didn't even remember me. Who cares? Who cares if the doctor remembers you or not? Don't forget why you came here. Oh, right. I hadn't come here to see Dr. Takashina. I'd come to prove that I was normal. Seeing him again was just a bonus. What did it matter if he forgot about me? He doesn't need to be so caught up in the personality, like the friendliness, cordialities, whatever. If Saraton hadn't reminded me, I might have broken down right there. Whew. Oh, thank God this pretty anime chick could ground me or make me make sense again. Is it possible that you could, say, leave your house, go to a computer, type a message, and then just not remember it at all? Oh? Somebody I know told me that I was doing that, and it really confused me. Do you think it's possible they were joking? They didn't seem joking. Yua's eyes had been dead serious. She didn't look like she was teasing me or anything. If nothing else, she certainly seemed to believe what she was saying. I don't know. I see. Can you tell me more about your relationship with this person? A girlfriend, perhaps? Not explicitly. What was this guy talking about? What did that have to do with anything? That was probably not the right way to phrase it. Let me try again. Did this person actually see you up and walking while you weren't awake? Oh, was that what he meant? I shook my head. Then there's no evidence of it. I shook my head again. She thinks she's some kind of detective. She showed me all kinds of evidence. I see. And has there been any evidence or history of sleepwalking in your past? No. You've never woken up to find yourself not in your bed? Anything like that? No. Then you didn't notice anything until she told you. I nodded weakly before forcing myself to speak. I wasn't sleeping. Are you scared? You don't need to be so worried. No, that wasn't it. That wasn't what I wanted to say. But I wasn't sure how to explain it, and couldn't get my thoughts together in my head. I lost my chance to speak. He scribbled something in his chart before spinning around to turn away from me, and then leaned forward toward the back of the exam room. Hazuki, come here.
Hi.
Yes, sir. A young nurse came over. See, that's what I thought was gonna, or that's who I thought was gonna be in the delusion when I said that there was gooning to come. A young nurse came over. The doctor showed her my chart and said something softly to her. Then she quickly went back further into the room. What was that about? He turned to face me again. Then, in a gentle tone, he explained to me what sleepwalking was. When someone falls asleep, he says, first they enter REM sleep, and then non-REM sleep. REM sleep was when the body was asleep, but the brain was close to fully awake. Non-REM sleep was a deeper sleep when the brain also rested. Sleepwalking is said to occur mostly during non-REM sleep. The brain isn't as active as it is normally, so you can't really engage the person in conversation, but they're able to answer questions and even walk up and down stairs without missing a step. It happens often during periods of extreme psychological stress. Sleepwalking is most common in children, but happens to adults as well. You understand now, right? It's not something you need to be so worried about. I see. But I wasn't sleeping. And yet I was still doing things that I didn't remember. The whole time, I'd been supposedly typing into that chat as Shogun in room 37. I thought I'd been playing ESO. Was that what you'd call sleepwalking? I wanted to ask, but the doctor just kept talking. There are several ways to test for sleepwalking. The fastest would be to have you fall asleep on this bed right here. But sometimes it only occurs under specific conditions, such as when you're sleeping in your own bed, for instance. Another question is whether, when you're walking about while unconscious, you just walk around randomly, or if some kind of obsessive compulsiveness compels you to follow a certain series of actions. It's also possible that your mind needs to be in a certain mental state. For example, you could feel relaxed at home, but not here. Well, want to try taking a nap here? I mean, I guess, right? It wouldn't hurt to try. I could make sure I wasn't sleepwalking, and then ask him the question I'd come to ask. The nurse, Hazuki, led me to a bed in the back. It wasn't meant for sleeping, so it was hard and uncomfortable. Still, it was better than the sofa I was used to sleeping on. I'll be back to wake you up in 3 hours. This nurse was really cute. I lay on the bed, glancing at her while trying to make sure our eyes didn't meet. She had a somewhat young, helpless-looking face, and the air of someone whose life wasn't really working out the way they'd wanted it to. Still, she went about her work quickly and steadily. She felt like one of the girls from an old H game, one set in a hospital with lots of grape. I'll make sure to keep an eye on you as best as I can, so don't worry about a thing. Just get some sleep. In other words, she'd be watching me to make sure I didn't get up and start walking around. Yes, like, they're gonna observe you. Good night. She smiled a little before closing the curtains and leaving. Surrounded by the white curtains, I let out a deep breath. I could hear lots of things, the voice of the doctor as he examined his patients, the other nurses walking around, even the door as it opened and closed. It was pretty hard to relax. Could I really sleep like this? I don't think I could. That's way too much noise. Also, he shouldn't be able to, like, eavesdrop on other patients' visits. Like, he needs to be in a separate room for that. You can't just close a curtain and be like, oh, it's all good. I tried to close my eyes just to see if it would work. The second I did, the Goro images that Shogun sent me and the sight of the corpse nailed to the wall came flooding back to me. I forced myself to think of Seratan instead. Good old Seratan. Wow, Taki, you hate going outside, but you still came to a hospital. Amazing. I always thought you were a really strong boy. Inside my delusion, she was happily bouncing up and down. Next, she whispered to me in a sweet voice. I love how strong you are, Taki. And you don't sleepwalk, by the way. I see you every day, so I would know. Don't let any 3D girls fool you. You've got me, right? Let's go back to your container house and spend our days together. Just the two of us, dork. Sarah, you're so cute. Sarah. Sarah was my ideal wife, after all. No girl could ever be better than her. 3D? Pfft, who cares about 3D? Certainly not me, and I can't stop myself from telling everyone around me. I couldn't wait to go home. Sarah would be waiting for me with a big smile and a welcome home. Just wait, Seratan. I'll be coming back for you. We're gonna go with the non-goon version this time. She opened the door and was met with a smiling doctor. Huh? What brings you here today? She ignored the question and looked around the room. The exam room wasn't very big. There was a blank medical chart on the desk next to another one covered in writing. The writing was in a language that wasn't Japanese. They called her a demon. Everybody did, even her parents. Whether she had been a demon from the start or became one because everyone called her that anyway, it didn't matter anymore. Oh shit, is this a demon girl? Like, are we switching perspectives? In the past month, she'd killed 8 people. Wow. The public called her mad, but from her perspective, that number wasn't anything special at all. She was a demon, after all. Is something bothering you? If you see something that bothers you, just tell me. I'll move it. He was a good doctor. He cared about making his patients comfortable. She smiled, opened her bag, and slowly took out... What is it? Ooh, a 24-centimeter knife with a willow leaf blade. Honestly, I thought it was going to be the stake cross nails, whatever, from the murder we witnessed. Or would you rather go to a larger room? The doctor's expression froze at the sight of the knife. Oh, we're ramping up. She smiled gently at the sight of his fear. This doctor would be the 9th. This wasn't part of her original plan, but there was no harm in adding one more. She put her bag on the ground and silently walked over to the doctor with long strides, before leaping and stabbing with the knife. We're getting violent. The knife slid right past the ribs and straight to the heart. That one strike was enough to kill. The body slumped forward toward her, then fell to the ground. Now it was an unmoving thing. She withdrew her knife and knocked the thing away with her elbow. And now she goes for the... Oh, she's going for the nurse! I was going to say she's going for Takumi next. I forgot about nurse. Just as the corpse fell forward, its white jacket stained with crimson, she heard the scream of a nurse who had come to investigate the ruckus. She slashed at the nurse with the knife, stepping on the doctor's body to get closer. A spray of fresh blood. It wasn't a fatal wound, but a jagged slash had been carved into the kind-looking nurse's face. Ow! The nurse screamed and fell to the ground, hands over the wound, blood pouring through her fingers. She ignored them and walked towards the exam room. The 10th victim wasn't going to be that nurse. It needed to be something special. 10 was a big number. 2 whole digits. It had to be her original target. The other patients and nurses were already running and screaming. The whole place was in an uproar. But none of their voices reached her ears. She looked around, certain that he was somewhere nearby. She could smell him. Her eyes fell on the curtain. The curtain surrounded a tiny space, the size of a small walk-in closet. There was probably a bed inside. There you are. She shook with joy. Warmth spread just below her abdomen at the thought of finally being able to kill him. She slowly approached the curtain, but instead of opening it, she slashed through it with her knife. When she peered through the hole she'd made, she saw a bed, and just as she'd thought, he was lying on it. Found you. When she saw him, she couldn't control herself anymore. She flung open the curtains and stood by the bed. Is this what we look like? He was asleep, a pained expression on his face. Gently, she wrapped her finger in his hair, softly stroking his head. He didn't wake up. She held the knife, blade downwards. She raised her hand high. She aimed for his heart. A single strike, just like the doctor. That would be enough to kill him. With a look of ecstasy on her face, she brought down the weapon. And there goes Takumi. I leapt up, only to find myself still on the bed. My heart was pounding fast. I looked at my chest. There was no stab wound there, no blood either. I was unharmed. I looked around. The curtain was closed. It hadn't been slashed with any kind of knife. I slowly put a hand up to the curtain. For a moment, I had a delusion that if I opened it, I'd see Hazuki and the doctor lying on the ground covered in blood. It was just a dream, right? But I didn't have the courage to open the curtain. What if I did and saw an ocean of blood? What if the demon girl was there, waiting with a knife? I was too scared to move. And then... Pretty nurse! The curtain was flung open right in front of me. I screamed and fell off the bed. Oh, are you okay? Huh? I looked up. Hazuki was looking down at me with wide eyes. There was no blood on her white outfit and no gaping wound on her face. Oh, I'm sorry for startling you. I didn't think you'd be awake yet. Oh, no. I looked so pathetic. I slowly staggered to my feet, eyes pointed firmly at the ground. My heart was still pounding hard. I was so glad it was just a dream, though. It was like something out of a horror movie. That was very horror. I can appreciate that. Are you really okay? She looked at me, worried. I was so embarrassed that I couldn't look up. The most I could do was nod a few times. You seem to be having some kind of nightmare. I had a bad dream. Yeah, bro, that's what a nightmare is. I see. What time is it? How long was I asleep? I'm guessing like 3 hours. I asked Hazuki. Surprisingly, I'd been out for 3 whole hours. I must have been more tired than I thought. But there was no sign of sleepwalking, I can tell you that. Her tone was reassuring. Well, it's possible that you just didn't show any symptoms today. We can't be 100% certain. No, I'm not a sleepwalker. I needed to ask the question I came here for. But I didn't see the doctor. Hazuki offered me a sheet of paper. I looked at it. There were various questions for me to answer. This is a worksheet that will help us understand your current mental state. Think of it like a psychological test. Once you fill it out, the doctor says you're free to go. Can I talk to him? Oh, sorry, he's busy with other patients. He says to wait a week, and if your symptoms don't get better, to come back. To be fair, he wasn't my personal physician or anything like that. He'd probably just given Hazuki, his nurse, instructions for me. But then, what was the point of even coming to this hospital? I wanted to ask about the awful possibility that I was being controlled by someone who wasn't me. But Hazuki looked so apologetic that I didn't have the courage to demand to see the doctor. I decided to just fill out the worksheet she'd given me. I'd write out the symptoms I was experiencing on the back, I decided. Then I could come back next week and talk to him again. It's a simple form. You'll be asked a series of yes or no questions. If any of it applies to you, please check yes. We'll use this to determine if you need any further treatment, so please think carefully about your answers. Hazuki was kind enough to give me a full explanation. She's legally required to. Some of the questions on the test were weird, not the sorts of things you'd expect to be asked at a hospital. It was almost like one of those online personality quizzes. What would answering these questions tell them? Hazuki was staring at me. She wasn't getting ready to leave. It didn't seem like she just had nothing better to do. She was observing me. No, watching over me. Being watched made me nervous, so it was hard to think about the questions, but I suppose that was just the nurse's job. I decided to just forget it and fill out the sheet. Oh, do I? Ooh! Oh, I get to fill it out! When you need to talk to someone, do you prefer to text instead of call? What happens? Do I do yes? Okay. Do you sometimes have tinnitus? So I'm gonna try to answer this from what I think Takumi would say. Have you ever felt someone's eyes on you and turned around? Yes. Do stationary objects sometimes seem to be moving towards you? Have you ever had a premonition that turned out to be right? Have you ever checked a digital clock and seen the same numbers repeat? Have you cried within the last month? Can you masturbate just using your imagination? I'm sorry, I'm like actually confused at these questions. Can you stay focused on just one mental image when masturbating? Okay. Can you fantasize about something with your eyes open? Does the front of an automobile ever look like a face? That's a normal thing, though. Do you have difficulty going to the bathroom after watching a horror movie? Not a fan of haunted houses? When you start reading a book, do you lose track of time and immerse yourself? I feel like if Takumi was a reader, that would be true. Do you think aliens are real? I'm gonna go with no. When you look at your horoscope, is it always right? Do you get motion sickness easily? You know what? I'm gonna do that. Do you think God exists? Do you think you have a sixth sense? When you sleep, do you dream in full color? When you're asleep, do you ever understand that you're dreaming? No, I don't think he's ever lucid dreamed. Have you ever experienced partial memory loss? Do you have trouble making eye contact with others? Does the sight of a lemon make your mouth full of saliva? And when other people yawn, do you yawn too? Yeah, we threw in a couple random ones there. Just we'll see how that affects we'll see how that affects Takumi. Maybe he develops some traits with that. When I checked off the last few questions, Hazuki spoke to me before I had a chance to say anything to her. I'd been really embarrassed, having her watch me the whole time. Maybe my face had been red. I quietly handed over the worksheet, trying not to look at her face. I hadn't had time to write my symptoms on the back. Now, please wait in the waiting room. You'll be given some medicine. Huh? Medicine? I was getting some kind of prescription? The doctor hadn't said anything about that. Okay, that is pretty sus. Yes, those were the doctor's instructions. Some mild sedatives. They'll help you sleep and don't have any side effects. Okay, that makes sense. If he's worried that he's sleepwalking, then maybe he's not getting restful sleep. Woohoo! Thanks, Doc. I was appreciative, but also the thought of waiting in that lobby again made me feel miserable. Fair. But usually they're pretty fast with just filling a prescription and getting you out. And I think that's a pretty good place to leave off. That was honestly actually one of the weirdest psychological exams I've ever taken. Some of that seemed pretty normal, but then also maybe it's testing your empathetic response or your connection to other people. So maybe there's an antisocial aspect that they're trying to suss out. I really don't know. I hope we didn't just give him a whole host of new disorders. But if we did, I guess that'll be fun to sort out. Well, thank you so much for watching if you've made it this far. If you liked the video, go ahead and give it a like. If you didn't, keep it to yourself or put it in the comments, really, whatever. I don't care. And subscribe, because if you subscribe, then that means you're subscribed, and that tells me you're subscribed. And I hope to see you in the next one. Thanks, and bye!